Welcome to Escape Artist, the podcast where we celebrate the bold souls who have dared to break free from the confines of the corporate 9-to-5 grind to pursue their passions and create a life of personal and financial freedom. Each week, we'll uncover the stories of extraordinary individuals who have embarked on their own entrepreneurial adventures. Our guests will share their personal tales of liberation, resilience, and triumph. Together, we'll explore the pivotal moments, the challenges, and the lessons learned along the way. So join me as we embark on a journey of discovery, courage, and boundless potential. Let's design the life you've always dreamed of, where the only boss is you. Here's your host, Laura Demetrius.
Hello, Escape Artists. I hope you all had a great week. I'm really excited to bring you today's interview with my friend Eric. But let's just catch up for a second, shall we? I'm really excited to share with you all that I finally competed in my very first triathlon over the weekend. I had mentioned it in a previous episode with Lisa Zelenak. Some of you may know if you follow on social. I've been training for this. I wanted to get that first one under my belt. I did a super sprint at the Grand Rapids Triathlon, and it was really exciting. It was a goal that I set several months ago. And when my job was eliminated at ClickFunnels, I had decided to go all in on my health and fitness journey and kind of reset my headspace and the way that I think about success. And it's really interesting, like the chasm that has really happened from being so focused on my professional career to shifting gears and going all in on something that is personal and it's mental and it's something that is challenging, and I don't have to put all of my weight of, being professionally successful and instead focus on what truly makes me happy. And that was one of those things that I had a really great time doing and training and putting all of that effort in so that it could be something completely for myself. So maybe down the road, I'll record a podcast about that and what that journey has been like for me. Because I've been really passionate about it, and it's something that's been new to me this year. Old Laura, like a couple years ago, Laura would be shocked that I ever did something like this. So I wanted to share that with you guys as an update. Hopefully I can share more about that soon. I don't know if there's anyone out there that is into multi-sports or competitive sports or just, refocusing on your own health and wellness journey. I'd love to chat more about it. But today, I want to jump into this phenomenal interview that I had with my great friend, Eric Moeller. He's on a mission to redefine short-term rental hospitality with Freewyld, and it's a brand that he founded to inspire more meaning and intention for when we travel. It's a really cool business. I loved learning more about it with him today. So without further ado, here's my interview with Eric. All right, what's happening, friends? Today, I am with my friend, Eric Moeller. I'm really excited because we go way back from when I was in the agency world and we did a little bit of work together, and you've had a lot of really cool businesses. Eric is with me, and I'm excited to talk about his new business, Freewyld, and some of the things that he's been doing. So, Eric, thanks so much for being with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to dive into this.
Yeah. So back when I worked with you, you had a few different short-term rental property businesses. And it was really fascinating how you could take that industry of real estate and Airbnb type rentals and turn it into an online business. And I always thought that was really cool. And I imagine people had a lot of questions about it. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now. And you can give me the full back history on the businesses that you've had before and kind of how it brought you here. But I would love to just hear and for people to understand your story and how you got here today.
Yeah. So, we've, it's funny. You and I met when I first got into, I was probably about a year into the whole Airbnb business world. It was probably 7 years ago. Right around there. I moved from New Jersey to San Diego, and I was previously in construction and real estate. And I remember back then when I moved to San Diego, the whole idea back then was developing a lifestyle business, online style business. And I wanted that to be around real estate. And long story short, I figured out that this was the early days of Airbnb. I figured out that I can develop a somewhat of a online based business, lifestyle business around real estate, by leasing other people's properties and then re-renting them back out on
Yeah.
Airbnb and making some money. And that became pretty successful for us. We grew that really, really quick in San Diego. And then through that process, people started asking me to teach them the business, and that naturally turned into a educational company. And that's how we met, right? Of like,
Yep.
all right, I have this knowledge, I have these systems. How do I package them up and sell them? And that turned into a awesome business where I spent about, I would say, a good 4 years scaling that company. And that moved, the more that I grew that company, the further I got away from both the lifestyle business and the real estate business, the actual Airbnb business.
As one does when scaling a business.
Oh yeah. It's like, it's like there's certain people that can grow multiple companies at the same time. I'm not one of them. I got to be all in on one thing. And growing an educational company is very challenging, and a lot of people, and it grew. It was very successful. But it got to this point where I realized like it wasn't the thing that I got into business for, and it's a completely different thing than running actual Airbnbs. So, a couple years ago, well, during COVID, we were on a road trip, and we were staying in these different Airbnbs, and the idea came to me of creating these beautifully designed cabins in nature that are easy to get to, 1 to 2 hours from cities, that are designed to help us disconnect from technology. This again was during COVID, so height of all the chaos, right? It was like COVID and elections and, like just all the things. So your cell phone was just going off all the time.
Never a better time to want to get away from that. Yeah.
And it was crazy. And it was like, okay, how do we get off of technology? And then we found ourselves camping and going to like off-grid properties. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. But after a couple of days, it gets freaking boring and you want to plug back in. And so the idea came to me of creating this company, which is now what we call Freewyld, and doing exactly what this idea was a few years ago of we're buying these old cabin communities in nature-inspired locations, so mountain, desert, and beach areas, and we convert them to these beautifully designed short-term rental experiences. And the main thing of going to our properties is we want to inspire people by the spaces that we design, inspire them through the places that our properties are in. But then we have an experience in our property called Wyld Mode, where we help them disconnect from technology when you're at our properties.
I love that.
And it's like, I wasn't sure if it was like just a COVID thing or that time era of like trying to get off the phones, but like the further we get into this business, the more I realize like more and more people need that. They need to be inspired by beautiful places and spaces, and they need a way to disconnect from technology. And we're building a whole brand and experience around doing that for travelers.
That's amazing. And 100% agree. Like you have to probably think like, was this a COVID thing? Like, is this going to last? Is this something sustainable? However, I kind of feel like COVID set like the baseline for the things that we need to reset and like start over. And I think we all learned a lot, like businesses learned that, they didn't have to have headquarters or like huge office spaces anymore, and they could cut their overhead and let people work remotely. I also think the same for people in their mindset of like being just inundated with like news and politics and disease and all of these terrible things happening in the world. There's never a better time to think like, wait, let's start over. Like this isn't how it should be. Let's reset. And I don't think that can get stale. Like that's always something that we are going to need as people, especially as Americans.
Yeah. Well, especially as like technology and AI grows and the more connected, air quote connected we are through technology, the more disconnected we become. And the more that just like the primal self is like seeking just natural connection with humans and ourselves and nature. And it's like, there's different ways of doing that. You can go camping, which is beautiful. And I love camping. I love doing that, but it's a different experience. And then like doing these, like, doing an off-grid experience is completely different than going to like a beautiful short-term rental. But when you're at these short-term rentals, it's like, you're still connected. Like, and we found that like people are still spending the same amount of time on their cell phones at short-term rentals and travel than they are at home. They're just spending more money to be in a different place to do it. And we're like, all right, well, that's annoying. And okay, well, we need more disconnection to reconnect. How do we do that? And so that's the mission that we're on. We're creating these like really awesome experiences to do it. And yeah, I think as we get more connected and AI continues to grow, I think we're going to constantly be seeking that in
Yes.
some level.
Yeah, real humanistic connection, not only with other people, but just to like do it on our own. I think is a really good reset as well. Okay, so you said that you had a real estate background before you started the businesses where, I got to be introduced with all of the things that you were doing. And then you kind of shifted into like, okay, let's disconnect. Like, let's have these beautiful design cabins, which I've seen some of the stuff that you've done. It's absolutely gorgeous. How did you shift from like the online business education scaling mentality to what you're doing now? Because it feels like that there's a big shift. And I imagine a lot of it was just like personal passion and what you learned that you loved. But what was that shift for you? And was it scary going from something that is, an online business to something that is more location based?
Yeah. Yeah, it was terrifying. It still is scary. I say it every day, like how crazy it is. Like it's a crazy idea to create. I'm essentially creating a hotel brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're focused on short-term rentals, but our model is buying large pieces of land and having multiple cabins, unique structures on these properties. And we run it, we buy them and run them as hotels, but we're focused on the short-term rental traveler, right? So it's like, it's a crazy idea to do this, right? Because it requires eventually hundreds of millions of dollars in equity, real estate equity to buy these properties. Right now we're raising seed capital to build a highly qualified team. And it's like, there's a lot that goes into it. But I just remember we were doing an offsite with my team, my previous, and the company's still alive and we have educational products and we're still helping students and people grow their short-term rental companies. I'm just not part of it anymore. I've fully stepped away from it, but we were running a offsite and I just remember at that time, I just like we made a lot of money. We were doing it very, very well. The team was growing. We were spending a lot of money on media to grow it even more. And my COO came to us and gave us the projections for the new year. And he's like, "Hey, I think we can double this business." And it was millions of dollars. And I was like, "Okay, that's cool. Well, what's it gonna require?" And we mapped it out and I sat with it and I recognized like, even if we tripled this business, I still like this wouldn't have an impact on me. Like it wasn't like the money wasn't motivating me to do the thing, to grow the business and be the, and the game, like the educational online based business, you have to be somewhat of a dancing bear of look at me and, I'll show you my way type of thing. And like building that influence online. And I just didn't want to play that game.
And it's easy to get lost in that, especially if you are seeing success. It's this constant, identity crisis of this is going really well. I can keep doing it, but like at what cost to me and my own personal values?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, at that time, I was like super, I look back now and I recognize like I was depressed. I was, I wasn't exercising in any way. I was very overweight. I was like, there was a lot of negatives that was coming along with this air quote lifestyle business I was building for myself. And I recognized like, hey, no matter the size of that business, I'm not satisfied with what I'm building. And this wasn't really the goal of what I wanted to do in the first place. This was supposed to be a bridge to doing what I'm doing now with Freewyld. And when I looked at like, okay, 10 years from now, 20 years, 30 years from now, looking back, like on how I spent my time, where would I have wanted to do that? And also, where's the biggest upside for the time that I'm investing into these businesses? And I recognize like for Freewyld, I don't care the size. It could be $1 billion company or it could be the size that it is now. I could do this for the rest of my life and be super grateful and happy about it. But I also have the ability of growing something that's much larger than me and something I can pass down to my kids in the future. You can't the business I was building previously, I couldn't really do that. That was like in the moment, making money, look at me type of thing. It's like more of a firework going off, right? It's nice to see, but it's going to fizzle out eventually. So that was just a hard decision. And, I spent a lot of time just journaling on that, thinking through that, talking to people I respect, speaking to my fiance about it. And we're like, all right, well, this is the time now to do it. And it's like, eventually you got to jump, and so we jumped and we're figuring it out. So it was just this crossroads of realization of like, I'm not happy. Yes, I can make a lot more money. Okay, I can have more things, but it's not fulfilling. And regardless of the size of this other business, it's going to make me happier. And at the end of the day, it's like,
for sure,
what it's about, right?
Yeah. And it's never not going to be scary. It's never not going to be hard. However, knowing that your values and the things that you want to do and what you've learned throughout the years in doing different businesses, that this is exactly what you want, what you love. So it does make it at least a little bit easier to make that jump because there's so many other personal things tied to it. Yeah. And I think that that's really admirable. Like you clearly did a lot of inner work, which a lot of entrepreneurs that run successful businesses don't have the time, the bandwidth, the capacity to even think like, is this actually what I wanted to be building? Like it started that way. Is the trajectory putting me on a place where like, I want to be here several years from now? And you did the inner work and you were like, I know exactly what I want to do. It's going to be really hard. I have to raise capital. I have to figure out where my properties are going to be, but you love it and you're doing it anyway. And it's scary. And I think that that is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And, I'm blessed to be surrounded by like some really beautiful humans here in San Diego, like very successful entrepreneurs in many different industries, from, the successful, consultant to the CEO founder of $1 billion company and everybody in between. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of these guys and gals like grow their companies throughout the years. And, I've learned that if you're just money focused on the, sometimes you like where I came from, we can get into that if you want, but where I came from, it's like, I had to be money focused to get out of the area and the people I was surrounded by, right? To get to the point where I'm at now. And now I'm like, okay, things are beautiful. I understand how to make money. I understand that game. How do I choose to spend my time? And eventually, I think if you're an entrepreneur that's only focused on building businesses just to make money, and you're not doing that inner work, and you're not asking yourself, is this truly aligned with what you want to do? And is it aligned with your greater goals, the whole thing? Compared to the CEO or the founder that, I believe in the whole holistic CEO founder, right? Yeah. Of, it's, you got to build a great product and be a great leader and drive profits and all of that. But you also have to take care of yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically, right? Yes. Because it's one big flywheel, right? And that's what I'm interested in. And when I recognized that my other business was making money and was only focused on making money, and of course we cared about the results with the students that were going through it, but it wasn't a motivator for me to continue to go down that path. Right. Yeah,
for sure. And you see it all the time. I mean, the people who, I don't think there's any such thing as overnight success, but those businesses that grow so quickly and they're seeing profit, how much do they actually have to stand on, and how sustainable is that business? When you're really putting in the work and you don't see success right away, but you're building it and you're loving it and you're, bringing in great team members and you're creating community and doing all these things, it's not going to be overnight, but it is probably going to last.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I believe, so we named our other company Overnight Success because we were focused on helping short-term rental Airbnb hosts be successful one night at a time. Overnight Success, it plays into that. But my biggest, this is what I preach to everybody about being an overnight success, is that it takes 10 years of hard work, insecurity, uncertainty, failures to come to a point where you're that air quote overnight success. And
I love that. What a coincidence too. Like I didn't even realize that was something you did, but that you still have that same mindset with, what it takes to actually be an overnight success. I think that's really, really cool.
Everyone, I mean, I've been blessed to be surrounded by some really amazing people the last 10 years here in San Diego. And I've seen the companies that that we both know that are like, the headline companies, they raise a ton of money, A series, and they just like, they have that hockey stick growth and they look like that overnight success.
Yeah.
But behind the scenes, it's freaking chaos and no one's happy. And it's like, it's exciting, but it is just pure chaos. That's the best word. And it eventually sizzles out, where the companies and founders that I look at, and I'm not tying it to a dollar amount, but that are truly successful at what they do, they stuck to that thing for 10 years or whatever the journey was.
Yeah.
And through that entire journey, it was a lot of failures and uncertainty until they got to a point where it became what we now call overnight success. Like there's 10 years of effort behind it to become these brand names, right?
For sure.
And that's the stuff that motivates me. When I learned that, that's when I was like, all right, I'm all in on Freewyld. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I'm not creating, in this famous last words, this is the last business I'm ever creating. It's like, I'm in this until I'm done, until I retire. Right. And that took me a long time to get to this point.
I'm sure. Well, it's exciting. And I know you mentioned being in Masterminds, and I think at some point we crossed paths because our networks were, overlapping in some ways. And I know multiple people that have been in Masterminds and are running the same circles as you. And obviously so many of them are in San Diego because it's just like a hotbed for such smart, unique, fun business ideas and people. How have Masterminds for you helped you grow as an individual and as a business owner?
Oh, it's everything. It's everything. It's like, it's my community. I literally moved from New Jersey to San Diego to move into what is called the Entrepreneur House. And that's how we connected, is through that network. And that was like living in a mastermind. And, I was living with 5 other startup entrepreneurs who were all focused on becoming that holistic founder CEO that I was talking about. And through that, what I recognize, it's like that famous quote of like, you are the total sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
It's like, that's 100% true. Like that is 100% true. Like if you surround yourself with people who think positive and think big and think about possibilities versus problems, and we have those conversations and we're excited about change, we're excited about solving challenges and all that stuff, you're just naturally going to start thinking that way and being that way.
Yeah. Right? And entrepreneurship can be lonely. It is so important to connect with others. Hello, my fellow digital entrepreneurs. It's Laura here, and I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce you to something truly transformative. Picture this. You're armed with the most cutting-edge digital marketing strategies, equipped with high-income skills, and empowered to establish and run a thriving online business in just a matter of days. That's where Digital Wealth Academy comes into play. This program isn't just your typical online course. It's a comprehensive journey meticulously crafted to guide you from where you are to where you dream of being. With Digital Wealth Academy, you'll learn everything from creating your own digital products to how to launch your business strategically. You can dive into funnel building, branding, email marketing, and how to build trust with your audience. What's even better is you'll gain exclusive access to the master resale rights to the course. So even if you don't have your own product yet, you can sell the course yourself to get your business started. Imagine rebranding and sharing this invaluable knowledge as your own while reaping the rewards time and time again. Head to www.sidehustlelaura.com/DWA or click the link in the show notes to step into the world of digital entrepreneurship today. Remember, your journey to success begins now. Keep believing and keep breaking free. What would you tell someone who's like, virtual, and maybe they're in the middle of nowhere or in a city that's not necessarily a hotbed for entrepreneurship? Like, what could they do to feel that kind of network?
Yeah, I always tell people 2 things. One is like, you have to seek out the communities and invest in the communities, and you're going to invest in some communities that aren't great, right? You're going to invest in some programs that aren't great, but you're going to find 1 or 2 people in those communities that are worth every single dollar that you put into that. And it could be an online based community or something that you fly out to and connect with people. It's not about like finding this like, oh, these are my people type of like, everyone's amazing and everything's in alignment. Like every mastermind I'm a part of, I'm like, oh, this could be better. Yeah. But then I find that one person that like, him and I, or, whoever it is, like we just connect, and like I get so much value from that. And I'm constantly seeking that. And then two is if you have the courage to do it, is create your own community. You don't have to charge for it, but that's what I started doing in the early stages of like, I didn't know how to build an Airbnb business because back then nobody was doing it. So because I was in the entrepreneur house, I would just set up a weekly meeting to where anybody who was an Airbnb host can just show up and we just talk about being Airbnb hosts. And then that turned into a mastermind, right? It's like, join the communities and then just lead a community and that will grow your network so freaking much.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything massive.
It's really cool too, that such organic conversations or just ideas where you're like, I probably wouldn't talk about this to most people, but I know I'm in a room with a lot of people who are brave with their ideas and willing to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, like I just have to commend you on this, because when I think of you, I think brave, because when I first learned about your business, I'm like, I don't know anyone else who's doing this. I imagine you don't have a whole lot of resources of people who are doing the same thing, who are like, I don't own a bunch of properties, but let me figure out how I can use properties and property owners to create a business that continues to grow. And I was like, man, that's really cool. I don't know anyone else that's doing that. And you're still finding ways to do things that a lot of people aren't doing. And I think that that's really brave. But it starts with those conversations, right? You can be in a community and like a lot of people aren't going to be your cup of tea. You're going to be like, yeah, their values don't align with me. Like that's not my
100%.
people. But it's so true. Like what you said, like you're going to find one or two people in a few different communities. Like that resonates with me, and you carry those people with you. You keep having conversations, and those conversations turn into things where you're validated and you get that confirmation of like, no, that's actually something that could work, and you have what it takes to do it. And I think that sets the precedent for so much of really great businesses.
Yeah. I mean, you got to seek like-minded people and people that you look up to that are doing something that inspires you. And it's like the first mastermind I ever joined when I moved to San Diego was, I spent like 25 grand for the year to join it. It was the most money I've ever spent on anything at that time. And, the leader of the mastermind was like promising these certain results because we're going to teach Facebook ads and all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to learn all this stuff. And I didn't learn anything from him in that mastermind, but I met, because it was in person and it was so high touch with the individuals. There was 80 people in the mastermind. Still to this day, I have 3 or 4 friends that I met at that mastermind that we've traveled the world together. They're going to be at my wedding. They're like, we have like these deep connections with, and like, it was because of that mastermind. And, that was my biggest lesson was like, yeah, you can join high level stuff and you're going to get nuggets on how to build your business, but it's really about the people and your personal journey through that. That's worth every penny in these masterminds. And then, one last thing on this too is like about starting. I'm very passionate about sharing with people now about leading their own community. Because I really do think that with this fractured, it's beautiful that we get to run our businesses from home and work from home, but there is a fractured in the community because, going to the office and like doing all these things with other people creates community, and we're kind of missing that. And, like I'm getting married this year. We're obviously, we're thinking about kids in the next couple of years. And it's like,
Congrats.
Thank you. I've never had to think about this before. It's always been about business, right?
Yep.
And myself and all this stuff. So I'm now asking myself of like, what is it to be a man? What is it to be a husband? What is it to be a father? And I'm like, okay, I need to learn from people I respect that are doing this from a higher level. Like, what does that mean today in today's society? So I created a community here in San Diego. I don't charge for it, but I just lead it, where it's like, I reached out to 5 guys that I really respect in those 3 avenues of like, all right, this is what I define as like a clear man. This is what he's a great husband and seems like a great father. I want to learn from this guy. Brought them together. I'm like, hey, why don't you guys bring one person that fits that realm, and let's meet on a monthly basis. And now it's a thing. Like, we're traveling together and like, we're growing. It's, you got to put some effort towards it, but it's like my knowledge and like my understanding of who I am in those spaces have grown so much because I created the community. So you can do that around anything that you're passionate about.
It's so true. It could be starting with like a couple people getting a coffee, once a month or every other week, and turning into, do we share common values? Do we want to talk about things that are important to us? plus I'm one of those people, like, I'm not big on small talk. Like, I want to get into it. I want to know who you are as a person, what you love, what you value, like the things that you're excited about. I think it's really cool. Like, I'm obviously very pro community building, and I love that you pointed that out. And what I also think is really cool is that, like, there's this common thread in your life and your business about connection, and how it's not, success isn't tied to a number. Success is how things make you feel. And like, by you talking about community and connecting with people and willing to invest, is because you get to have like high touch points with a select group of humans who share common interests and values. That is also being reflected completely in the business that you started to build and that you love the most. Is like, there's that connection aspect. There's the, let's like step away from internet and the things that are consuming our minds so much of the time, so that we can actually build the things that we love, both in a human to human aspect and personally and mindset wise. And I think that that's really cool that you're like, let's focus on the things that we love and the things that build trust with the ones that are around us, so that we can be here for a long time. And it doesn't have to be a number. It's just how we feel.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's
And
so
I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a major learning lesson of, I have a really close friend that I lived with who built a company from the ground up. And I lived with him when he was doing pretty much nothing, considering shutting the company down. And now it's worth $1 billion and going public. And like, I watched him go from literally wanting to shut the company down to becoming extremely wealthy. And having those conversations with him of like, okay, how does this money change you? And like, what are you excited about? And like, I thought it was going to be this whole new thing of, like all of us are always chasing like the next thing of, oh, we got to be financially free and all this stuff. And he got it to a level that I've never seen before. And the thing that excites him the most is the time that he gets to spend with his kids and his wife. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, that's all we're trying to do. Like, we're just trying to create space and time and connection with people. It's like, how much do we actually need to do that? And when you start working backwards, it's like, we don't need that much money to actually create.
I personally think that we are conduits. We're here for such a short amount of time. We are conduits of money so that it can come and pass through us and do the things it needs to do. 100%. And it doesn't mean anything unless we're actually doing what we love. So that's a huge statement. I love that.
Yeah.
Eric, it's been awesome. I could talk to you about something like this forever. I love it that you came on here. I'm glad we got to talk about this. Where can people go to learn more about Freewyld?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Freewyld.com. So FREEWYLD.com. And then I am off social media. I haven't been on social media in a long time.
Good for you.
Which feels freaking great. But I am on LinkedIn because the connection there. So people can reach out to me there. Eric D. Moeller on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And one thing I wanted to ask too, like, how do you determine locations for your Freewyld? Basically communes, locations, cabins.
Yeah. So we specifically look for nature inspired areas that are within a 2 to 3 hour drive of metro markets.
Cool.
Right. So like, if you think of, San Diego, you have multiple markets that are outside the city that completely transforms environment. Right. It's like Wyld, where our first location is. You're driving from San Diego or LA and you're in the city until you're in all these huge pine trees and mountains. And it's like a completely transformation of space, right? Which is great. Right. And that's what we kind of seek. So 2 to 3 hour drives from metros that will help you just fully disconnect from it.
And I know you mentioned that there's also going to be locations that have like services that you provide too, right? To probably help people disconnect or do things with nature.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So we created we're creating something called Wyld mode in our properties, and in our future, we're building new cabins from the ground up. We have a piece of technology in there that helps people disconnect from technology. So I'm not anti-tech. I just think we all need a break from it all, right? So we have something in the property called the Freewyld switch, where it comes with 2 modes. Free mode, which is like a typical Airbnb where you have Wi-Fi, Netflix, whatever you want. But when you choose to go into Wyld mode, you switch it, actually physically go into Wyld mode. Something unlocks in the property where you lock your phones away. And once your phones are locked away, we unlock an experience for you. So that could be connection to nature. That could be, games, whatever it is. Like we curate these experiences for people when they're in Wyld mode. And eventually that's going to tie into the property where you can walk around the property and gain access to amenities that you only have access to while in Wyld mode.
Okay, that's brilliant. Like I already I had like light bulbs going off left and right about that. I love the like physical symbolism of like flipping that switch.
You have to.
I love that. That's so cool.
So, and then last part, I know we're wrapping up here, but Wyld mode has become this thing where it's becoming a movement behind what we're doing here. And we're seeing people when they stay at our properties right now, it's as simple as what we call the Wyld box, where we have a box in the property where you lock your phones away, and we have like Polaroid cameras and maps and like conversation cards, all this stuff that's in there. But it's the intention of saying we as a group or an individual, we're locking our phones away. We're doing this. We're entering into Wyld mode. And that means that we could be kids again and just do whatever the hell we want in this space without having to be tied to technology. And now people are bringing that home with them. And, they're doing Wyld mode Fridays, Freewyld Fridays, where they're disconnecting at home and doing it. Right. So it's like, that's what drives me. That's the passion of like, how do we get more people to just disconnect for a moment and reconnect with what actually matters to them now. So yeah, we got grand visions on how we do that. Right now it's as simple as locking your phones away in a box. So
I am such a big fan of that. Yeah. We need to have another conversation just about that alone. I love that it's like a proprietary thing. It's going to become a thing that like people know, even if they're at home, like I'm going into Wyld mode. Like exactly. I love that. I think it's such a cool thing, and it's such a brand focus. And I think that there's a lot of things that can take off from that. It's really cool and admirable. Awesome. I highly encourage anyone listening or watching, go check out Freewyld, see if there's a location near you. If there's not, I'm also pro like fly to where you need to go, get even further away from home, from chaos, from family if you need to, and just reconnect with nature. I think that's so awesome. I'm going to go check it out too. Eric, this was awesome. I would love to have a chat again. So I'll have people go check out Freewyld. I'll include all of that stuff in the description of this episode. And yeah, it's so great to catch up and to hear about what you're doing. And I'm just so inspired by you. And again, I think you're so brave. I love what you're doing. And I hope that this business is around forever.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Congrats on the podcast. Super pumped for you. And love to have you in Freewyld any day now.
I would love to. Thanks, Eric. We'll talk soon.
All right.